Well, thank you, Mr. Chair. And Judge Jackson, welcome. It's really good to see you again. You know, today and actually throughout this week, the committee and the country are going to hear from Judge Jackson. She's been nominated to be the next Associate Justice of the United States Supreme Court. Any nomination to the court is historic. There have only been 115 justices in our nation's history. Judge Jackson's nomination, of course, is historic in more ways than one. Her nomination, pending a confirmation by the Senate, will bring us one step closer to having a Supreme Court that is more reflective of our nation. One where diversity of race and gender, background, education, and experience allow all Americans to look to their court and see in its justices a reflection of the American people. Judge Jackson, you know, with your presence here today, you are writing a new page in the history of America, a good page. Who the president nominates and the Senate decides to confirm to our federal judiciary, and especially our nation's highest court, that's extremely important. The American people, our constituents, and their faith in the courts, that's central to our democracy. They lose that faith, then democracy loses. The decisions made in our courts and ultimately in the Supreme Court affect the daily lives of each one of us. Fundamental questions about, for example, access to health care, the integrity of our elections, the fairness of our criminal justice system, the preservation of bedrock environmental laws, protections for workers. These issues and many more are routinely decided by the court. Every American must believe that the court is going to be impartial. They must believe that our courts are not a mere political arm of the executive or the Congress, but faithful only to the rule of law. The stakes in a democracy are simply too high. Let's make a few things clear. Judge Jackson is no judicial activist. She is not a puppet of the so-called radical left. She's been praised by Republican-appointed judges for her jurisprudence. Lawyers from the right and the left who have appeared before her in court have called her judicious and even-handed. Before I was in the Senate, I tried a lot of cases in trial court and then courts of appeal. That's what I wanted, somebody who was judicious and even-handed. I didn't care what their politics were. Judge Jackson is not anti-law enforcement. She hails from a law enforcement family. She's also won the support of preeminent national law enforcement organizations, including the National Fraternal Order of Police. And no, she's not soft on crime. Her background as a federal public defender would bring an informed perspective of our criminal justice system to the Supreme Court. I'm proud of being a former prosecutor, but confidence in my prosecution of a case was strongest when I knew the defendant had the best possible representation. When both sides and the presiding judge have a real grasp of our criminal justice system, that's when justice is most likely to be done. So I would say that Judge Jackson's background is not a liability to the court. It's a much needed asset to the court. And since her nomination, again here today, we've heard about the long distinguished record of Judge Jackson, graduate of Harvard Law School, a judicial clerk at the district, circuit, and Supreme Court level, a federal appellate judge, a federal district court judge, a member of the U.S. Sentencing Commission, an attorney in private practice, and a federal public defender. What a resume. All these experiences and perspectives have provided her a mastery of our justice system. And I'd say in particular the criminal justice system. If she is confirmed, She had become the first ever justice to have served as a federal public defender. That's an important experience given how much the court shapes our criminal justice system. I say that from my experience as a senator, but also my experience for nearly a decade as a prosecutor. And perhaps most of all, it is Judge Jackson's nearly 10 years as an appellate and trial judge that underscore the experience she would bring to the Supreme Court. She was confirmed unanimously by the Senate in 2013 to the D.C. Circuit Court. She served with distinction for 8 years. She issued more than 500 opinions. She presided over a dozen trials. And a bipartisan majority of the Senate confirmed her to the D.C. Circuit Court of Appeals last year. Let's be honest, she's a fair and impartial jurist with a fidelity to the law above all else. That's what Americans want to see in a Supreme Court justice. Years of so-called judicial wars have left Americans feeling like our courts have become increasingly partisan. The extreme interests of pressure groups on both sides of the political spectrum have left the American people wondering if they can get a fair shake in our courts. And yet, in this moment, we have before us a unique opportunity to change that narrative. I'm under no illusion that we can mend this process overnight. But we have before us a nominee who has brought us together across party lines before, and one I hope we can bring us back together again. The Senate can change course, return to how we fairly and objectively evaluate nominees. We can do that with a highly qualified nominee we have in Judge Jackson. Now, as Chair Durbin said, I'm the President pro tempore of the Senate. I'm a former chairman of this committee. I've participated in 20 prior Supreme Court nomination processes, most leading to confirmation, a small handful not. In fact, the first justice I voted on was from your state, Senator Durbin, John Paul Stevens. I've supported nominees from both Democratic and Republican presidents. And in Judge Jackson, I found a distinguished nominee with an unassailable record that merits our respect regardless of party. I believe the American people will see in her what I've come to learn in my review of her career and her life story. Her nomination is a reflection of the arc of our democracy, the arc that bends towards justice, as Dr. King once said. Although in fits and starts with every generation, we have sought to become more inclusive, more representative. We have looked at citizens, civic leaders, elected representatives, and yes, to judges to strengthen our democracy, and to recognize that our strength comes from our diversity. Judge Jackson's story, her nomination today, is part of the evolving story of America. So, Judge Jackson, I want to congratulate you on this nomination. Despite all the darkness in the world, and the political brinksmanship has unfortunately become a hallmark of Congress in recent years, your nomination actually fills me with hope. Hope for the court, hope for the rule of law, hope for the country. One need look no further than the chaos, the devastation, and the inhumanity halfway around the world in Ukraine to know how precious our democracy is and how precious the legacy we have in our independent federal judiciary. I need look no further than my own grandchildren, all of them, to know how necessary our fight for freedom, fairness, and equality is. The independence and impartiality of our courts and of the Supreme Court are a cornerstone of the great experiment that is the United States. And you, the American people, have a nominee in whom they can be proud. We have before us an historic moment, and I hope we can meet it as senators. So I look forward to your testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Leahy. Next is